You know, everything we touch, everything we use, from the ground we're standing on to the phone that's probably in your pocket right now, it's all part of this huge interconnected system. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that system, the world of resources and how we develop them.
So, let me ask you a question that might sound a little strange. What could your phone possibly have in common with a river? I mean, one is a piece of super advanced technology, the other is, a force of nature. But believe it or not, there's a deep connection there, one that actually shapes our entire world. Let's figure it out.
Okay, so to bridge that gap between the phone and the river, we have to start with the absolute basics. What exactly makes something a resource? The answer is probably a whole lot broader than you think.
And there it is. That's the answer to our puzzle. Your phone and a river are both resources. Because see, a resource isn't just some object. It's anything in our environment we can use to meet our needs, as long as it checks three really important boxes. We have to have the technology to access it, it has to make economic sense to use it, and it has to be culturally acceptable for us to do so.
This diagram really nails it. Right in the middle, that's us, human beings. We're the ones driving this whole process. We don't just find resources. In a way, we create their value. We take what nature gives us, we use our technology to transform it into something useful, and then we build institutions, things like companies and governments, to manage the whole shebang. It's this constant, powerful cycle.
So that definition covers a ton of stuff, right? From sunshine and wind to minerals buried deep in the earth to all the plants and animals around us. So to really get a handle on it all, it helps to break them down into a few key categories.
Okay, one of the simplest ways to slice it is just by looking at where they come from. On one hand, you've got your biotic resources. That's all the living stuff. Plants, animals, forests. And on the other hand, you've got abiotic resources, all the non-living things, like rocks, metals, and water. Now here's another way to look at it, and this one is absolutely crucial. How long will they last? Renewable resources like solar power or wind, they just keep on giving. But non-renewable ones like coal and oil, well, they're a one-time deal. They took literally millions of years to form, and once we use them up, they are gone for good. And that single difference right there is honestly at the heart of one of the biggest challenges we face today.
And that brings us right to the core of the problem. What happens when our relationship with these resources, our use of them, gets completely out of balance?
The problem really boils down to our indiscriminate, or you could say our careless and thoughtless use of all this stuff. And look, this isn't some small localized issue. This has sparked major global crises that affect every single one of us every single day.
It basically breaks down into three huge connected problems. First, we're just burning through some resources simply to satisfy the greed of a very small number of people. That leads directly to the second problem, this massive accumulation of resources and wealth into just a few hands, which creates huge divisions in society. And all that, it comes to a head in the third issue, full-blown ecological crises like global warming, pollution, and the degradation of our land.
I know, that sounds pretty heavy, but it's not all doom and gloom. There is a roadmap, a blueprint for a better way forward. It's an idea that's been guiding people for decades, and it's called
Sustainable development. And the idea at its core is actually pretty simple, but it's also revolutionary. It says that we can and we should develop our societies, but not in a way that steals from future generations. It's all about finding that balance between what we need today and what they're going to need tomorrow.
And this isn't just some feel-good philosophy. It's become a global mission. A real turning point was way back in 1992 at the Earth Summit in Rio. For the first time, leaders from over 100 countries got together and actually agreed on a plan. They called it Agenda 21, and it was basically the world's first shared roadmap for making sustainable development a reality in the 21st century.
So that's the big idea, the what. But how do we actually make it happen? How do we turn this concept of sustainability into real, concrete action? Well, like any big project, it all starts with a solid plan.
Resource planning really follows a clear, logical three-step process. Step 1, you gotta take inventory. Figure out what you have and where it is. Step 2, you build a structure. You use the right technology, the right skills, and the right institutions to manage those resources. And finally, step 3, you match it up. You make sure your resource plan fits in with the country's bigger development goals. It's about being strategic, not just reacting to problems as they pop up.
Now, planning is one half of the equation. The other half is conservation.
And it's a really simple but incredibly powerful principle. It just means using our resources carefully, thoughtfully, so that we don't waste them and they're still around for the people who come after us. And this isn't some high-level policy stuff that only governments can do. These are practical things that we can all be a part of. Using things wisely, cutting down on waste, recycling, switching over to renewable energy, planting more trees. These are the real-world actions that actually make sustainability happen. Okay, to bring all of this theory down to earth, literally, let's zoom in on one of the most basic fundamental resources that every single one of us depends on: land. If you look at a place like India, for example, you can see how varied this one resource is. You've got these huge plains that are perfect for farming, massive mountains that are the source for rivers and incredible biodiversity, and plateaus that are packed with minerals. Each type of land has a unique and vital job, which is exactly why managing it properly is so incredibly important.
But, and here's that theme again, we are damaging this vital resource. Land degradation, which is just the decline in the land's quality, is being driven by our own actions. Things like deforestation, out-of-control mining, overgrazing, even industrial pollution, they all directly harm the very ground that supports us.
And really, when we talk about land, what we're often talking about is soil. And it's so easy to just think of it as dirt, right? But it's so much more. It's a living ecosystem that can take thousands of years to form. And the amazing diversity within that soil is what makes so much of life on this planet possible. I mean, just look at the difference between two of India's major soil types. You have alluvial soil, which is made from river deposits and is perfect for growing food like rice and wheat. Then you have black soil, which comes from volcanic rock, and it's what you need to grow things like cotton. This isn't just a fun fact, it's fundamental to the economy and feeding people. Different soils support different things, and protecting that diversity is absolutely essential.
So let's just step back for a second and look at the big picture. We've defined what a resource is, we've seen how misusing them has created some massive global problems, but we've also mapped out a clear, actionable plan for a better, more sustainable future. The path forward? Well, it isn't a mystery. We know what to do.
We have the knowledge. We have the strategy. We understand the challenges. And we have the solutions right in front of us. So the only real question left is the one you see right here. What part will you play in all of this?